So here is the animation. Just I'm going to start this animation. This is a knuckle joint. Might have seen this knuckle joint, or in MD you might have drawn this assembly and detail of this knuckle joint. Now first part is that we are going to calculate the dimension of rod. Now this rod is undergoing to the tensile stress, and that's why stress is equal to force upon area. So area of that rod is calculated as pi by 4 d square, where d is the diameter, small d is the diameter of that knuckle joint, the rod. Okay. From that you are going to calculate the diameter. And failure of double eye, how the failure of double eye is going to take place in the tension, that we will see. Double eye means this fork type, where we are going to provide the pin inside that fork, and this single eye is coming in contact with that. So this double eye, if it is going to shear out, if it is going to fail in tension, then this area, these 4 areas which are resisting to that, these 4 areas are calculated as two into d2 minus d1 into t1. T1 is the thickness. Now this area which is shown here will undergo to the crushing, so that's why we have to calculate that area, and we have to check it for the crushing stress. In failure of the pin in double shear, definitely when you are going to insert the pin in this fork and single eye, then this pin will get shear out in this way. So this pin will undergo to the shear at upper and lower part. That's why this area which we are going to calculate will be multiplied by 2, and this area will be pi by 4 into diameter of that area, that pin. So 2 times we have to take it. Okay. So have you got the idea how the failure of that knuckle joint is taking place? Or should I repeat once again that video so that you can understand it in better way? You can put your comments also in comment section or in chat box. If you put any doubt, as the failure of double eye is taking place in tension, failure of single eye will also take in same manner, which is not shown in this animation. Okay, explain double eye and single eye. Okay, I will explain it, no problem. Crushing stresses are taking place here. failure of pin from upper and lower side. Cross-sectional area will be 2 times the area of that circle where the pin is inserted, or diameter of that pin you have to consider in that case. Okay. Yes, any doubt? Let me know. You can write in chat box. If not, we are going to see this. Yeah, no doubt. Okay, now we are going to see design procedure for the knuckle joint. A knuckle joint is nothing but the joint which is used to connect two different shafts which are transmitting tensile as well as compressive force. Okay, normally in the most of the cases it is used to transmit the compressive force. Such type of joints are used in connecting railway wagon with each other, and in our daily practice also you might have seen such type of joints in case of joining the tractor with trailer. Tractor normally will have this double eye or fork type of end, and trolley will have this single eye end, where the single eye is inserted in this double eye and later on pin is inserted in that, and the remaining part is just for the taking precaution that this pin will not come out, and that is a protection pin, we can say. Okay, one cover, ring cover is provided, and this protection pin is inserted in that ring so that this pin, so that this main pin will not be comes out. Have you seen such type of joint in case of tractor and trolley?
Yes.
Yes. So that is simply used to transmit the tensile force, okay, from tractor to trolley, and hence this total assembly will undergo to the different stresses, and just we have to take care that the pull which is used to transmit from tractor to trolley, that pull should be in acceptable limit, and we have to choose such type of dimensions of each and every part which is used in this knuckle joint, that that parts will sustain that tensile load and stresses will not be uh, increased than the allowable stresses. Now, do you have any doubt, Balaji?
No, sir.
Okay.
Sir, is there knuckle joint is transmit circular motion?
Circular motion, yeah, the knuckle joint is providing or allowing that circular motion also. Circular force, actually we didn't have any circular type of force. Force is used either pull or push. Okay, but it allows the circular motion. It allows 2 degrees of freedom. That is actually not 2 degrees, one single degree only. That is, it can rotate about this pin. This eye can rotate, single eye can rotate about the pin, and this double eye or this fork can rotate about the center line of this pin. Because you might have seen while taking turn tractor and trolley, this pin is allowing pin plus that steering mechanism which is used for the trailer, that is allowing to have the rotary motion. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now one by one we'll see. First of all, we'll see total parts which are used in this knuckle joint. Already I have told you this is the fork. Okay. First of all, this is the rod through which the force is transmitted. Okay. It is transmitted to this double eye, or it is called as fork. Okay. So fork is nothing but it is what we can say integrated part of this rod, and it is forged on that rod only. And it is in case of tractor, it is connected with the fasteners. But here you can see this rod which is used to transmit the pull. On that rod only it is forged. Okay. Sometimes it is threaded also. That is rod would have external threads, and this fork will have internal threads, and they are connected with each other. But you can consider it as an integrated part for sake of simplicity of our design. Okay. So for this fork and this single eye, okay, or it is called as eye end only. So this single eye is inserted inside this fork, and this pin is inserted in the hole which is provided on fork as well as on single eye. And later on, this lock pin is used with the collar, so that the main pin which is inserted in between fork and single eye will not comes out. Okay. So these are the what description of parts which are there in the knuckle joint. One by one we can choose first of all nomenclature. Okay. And later on we'll go to calculate the dimensions, or we'll see the formulae which can be used for the particular type of stress. Okay. So you can see here, this is the what we can say assembly drawing of knuckle joint. In this case, we are going to say, or we'll use the nomenclature as a capital D as a diameter of the rod. Okay. Then D1 is the diameter of extended part of the rod. That extended part of the rod is just here one step has been provided, and this part or this rod has been extended, and this dimension we are going to consider as a D1. Whereas to the other side, that is also second rod, and here the extended, that also we are going to call as a D1. Okay. Single eye and double eye. To the double eye side, D is the diameter of rod, and D1 is the diameter of the extended part. Then to the single eye also, we are going to consider D as a capital D as a diameter of rod, and capital D1 as a diameter of that step which has been extended on that single eye. Then we are going to consider that small d has a diameter of pin. Okay. Then small d1 has a diameter of the pin head, and do is nothing but the collar which has been provided to the fork. Okay. Or double eye. Then T1 is the total thickness of single eye, and T2 is the thickness of double eye on the collar. Okay, or where it is measured at the collar. Getting. Then this R is the radius which has been provided to the curvature or semicircle of the fork. Okay. Any dimension which has been remained? No. Okay. Now, once you understand this assembly drawing and the nomenclature which has been given, that is nothing but terms, where various terms which are used to give the dimension to the particular part of that knuckle joint, we can go further. Any doubt regarding this assembly drawing? If not, we'll go further. Okay, here that nomenclature has been written, okay, which we have seen on the previous slide. That is, P is the tension which has been provided on the total joint. Okay, capital D, as mentioned, diameter of the rod. D1, enlarged diameter of the rod. Okay, extended part. Small d is the diameter of pin. Small d1 is the diameter of pin head. Small do or d0 is the outer diameter of eye or fork that you are going to say. T1 is the thickness of eye end. T2 is the thickness of fork end. Okay, that is the double eye. And x is the distance of center of fork radius from the eye. That is, here I have not explained what is x. On previous slide we can see it. Okay, here this is x. Here we have mentioned this x, but I have not explained it. So this is x. Okay, that is nothing but the distance from this single eye end to the radius, or the point from which we are going to measure the radius of that fork, that you are going to call as x. Okay. Okay. Now, first of all, what we are going to do is that we are going to calculate the dimension for the rod. Okay, and we are going to consider that this rod will get fail in tension. So tensile load will be applied, and that is equal to P, and hence the shaded area, this is the area which is resisting to the tensile force. So we have to consider the tensile stress, that is sigma T, tensile stress which will get induced in that rod is equal to force which is used to pull divided by cross-sectional area. Here this cross-sectional area can be calculated as pi by 4 capital D square. Am I right? And if you want to calculate the, or if you want to change this formula in terms of P, it will become P is equal to pi by 4 capital D square into sigma T. Am I right? From here, you can calculate diameter of that rod. If you are knowing pull which has been applied, and if you are knowing allowable tensile stress. So here same formula is written here. This load is equal to stress multiplied by area. So load is equal to area of which is resisting to the tension, and allowable stresses, that is sigma T. Okay, pi by 4 capital D square sigma T. Now empirical relationship can be used, and diameter D1 that can be calculated. That is enlarged diameter. That is enlarged diameter which has been there on this enlarged diameter, you can say this diameter. Okay, as you can see here, this is the enlarged diameter. That is this particular part of the rod up to this point, even up to this point we can consider, is having more area than this rod. So if the rod is sustaining that tensile force, externally applied tensile force, which is having diameter D, definitely this D1, which is greater than that D, will sustain that tensile force, right? So from empirical formula, you can choose that particular value. And even if you are not satisfied with that, you can check it for the tensile failure. Okay, so D1 is calculated in this way, and you can check it for the tensile failure. Now we have decided the thickness of I end as well as fork end, that is T1 and T2. Now from empirical formulae, we can decide the thickness, and later on we can check it for the shear stress. Okay. So from the empirical formulae, you can choose this T1 as 1.25 times of the diameter of that rod, and T2 as a 0.75 times of that diameter of that rod, because T2 is nothing but the fork side. Okay, this fork side, here you are going to consider T2. Okay, and these both parts of the fork or sides of the fork are used to pull or used to sustain the stresses which are generated. Okay, pin is inserted in this way. So that's why this is taken as a 0.75, and other end of I end, this thickness you are going to consider as a T1, which is 1.25 times of the diameter of that rod, main rod. Are you getting me? Am I explaining it in a clear way, or it is too fast? Hello? Repeat this point. Okay, no. I'll repeat it once again. This thickness of double I, that is okay, this thickness of double I, this value is taken as a 0.75 times of the diameter, this diameter, from the empirical formula. Later on, we are going to check it, as we have seen in animation, that while we are going to calculate the area which is undergoing to the failure, for calculating that area, we need to have this T2. But that value, we are going to check it. If that is going to fail in that tensile failure, then we are going to change this T2. Okay. Here also that same T2. And here this T1 is used. T1 is 1.25 times and T2 is 0.75 times. What I want to tell you is that T1 is greater than the diameter, where T2 is less than the diameter. Why? Because this T2 which you are going to consider, that are 2 in numbers, okay, as is a part of 4. Whereas this I side, single I side, is only one part, okay, 1 times you are going to consider it. That's why it is considered as more than rod diameter, and T2 as a less than that rod diameter. Whether you have got it? Loro? Okay. Okay, while moving further, we are going to now considering these thicknesses of single I and double I, and later on we'll see the failure of that single I and double I in tension. Now we'll consider the failure of the pin in shear, because as already you have seen in animation, that failure is going to take place at these 2 places. That's why whatever may be the area which is undergoing to the shear, that will be multiplied by 2. Okay. This part of the pin is pulled by the fork, upper and lower part, and middle part is pulled by single I. That's why while you are going to consider the force which has been applied on double I will be distributed, okay, as a P by 2 and P by 2, P by 2 on the upper side and P by 2 on the lower side. But for the shearing, we have to take P only. That is the force which is responsible to shear this pin. Okay, but here only how the force will be applied on that pin, that has been explained here. Okay, now the shear stress can be calculated as this allowable shear stress tau is equal to, for the pin, this pull which has been applied, P divided by cross sectional area, that is it is multiplied by 2 because at both place the shearing is taking place for the pin, multiplied by pi by 4 small d square, and you can change this formula for the P by taking this area to the opposite side. So P will become equal to 2 times this pi by 4 d square small d square multiplied by tau. Is it clear? So resisting area is 2 times of pi by 4 d square into shear stress. Now here instead of using tau, sigma s, sigma suffix s is used for the shear, but we'll use our normal nomenclature as a tau. Okay, and from this you can calculate diameter of the pin. If the allowable shear stress are known, applied force is known, then we can calculate this diameter of pin, which will sustain this applied force for the given material, where for the given material tau is known, the shear stress is known. If it is not known, we can take it as a half of the allowable tensile stress, because very first part of this unit we have seen, normally tensile stress is double of the shear stress, and that's why we are going to consider, sorry, tau is equal to. So here we can write this formula as 2 times of the shear stress. Sigma t is the 2 times of the shear stress. So if it is not given in the problem statement, and if the allowable tensile stress is given, we can calculate this allowable shear stress with this formula. Okay, and that value we can use here, and we can calculate diameter of that pin. Any doubt? If you have any doubt on any slide, you are free to ask. Okay. Now this pin will also undergo to the bending, as we have seen in case of quarter joint, that this quarter pin is undergoing to the bending. That's why we have to consider the bending stresses which are generated, and basically bending stresses are what? You have seen either it will be compressive or tensile, right? So bending will be take place. Single eye will try to pull here, double eye will try to pull in the opposite side, and hence bending of pin will be take place. And this bending stress, either the tensile stress which are at the farmost on the farmost layer of the pin, or here compressive stress, maximum compressive stress. Okay, that value we have to choose, and we have to check it for the bending. From the bending formula, we can say this diameter of the pin is given by cube root of, because here the pin was we can say rectangular one, and this pin is circular one. So while we are going to calculate the inertia, that is moment of inertia of circular part and this rectangular part, different form, polar moment of inertia basically. So for the polar moment of inertia, we are going to use pi by 32 d cube. as a formulae. Am I right? So because of that, while you are going to convert that formulae into diameter, it has been come as a cube root. Okay, and for the rectangular one, it was root only. It was not cube root, because pi by 12 b into d. That formula is used for that. Okay, so while you are going to calculate this diameter, it is cube root of 32 divided by pi sigma b, where sigma b is either tensile, allowable tensile value we have to use, tensile stress value. Okay, or you can check what will be the bending stress if you are going to consider the d value from the previous shear stress or shear failure. Because while you are going to consider the shear failure, automatically this d can be calculated, diameter of pin can be calculated. That value you can put here, and you can find out what will be the bending stresses. And these bending stresses are less than the allowable tensile stress, then you can say the calculated diameter of the pin is suitable, we can use it. Okay, under root pi by, sorry, cube root of 32 divided by pi sigma b into p by 2 into t1 by 4 and t2 by 3. Okay, because t1 here, this thickness where the bending is going to take place, and T2 is the this thickness, that is the thickness of double I. Okay, how much force or how much this area is used to pull in this direction, and how much this area or length is used to pull in opposite direction, that lengths are considered here, T1 and T2. Okay, T1 is nothing but to the I side, and T2 is nothing but towards the fork side. Is it clear? Any doubt? Let me know. If you are having any doubt, you are free to ask. Okay, or you can write in comment box. If not, we can go further. Okay. Now, from the empirical formula only, because head we are not going to consider head of that pin, which will undergo to any type of stress. Okay. Once that pin is capable to handle the shear stress, then it comes normally what we can say sustain the bending stress also, and the head which we are going to consider for the pin, which this part will undergo to the crushing, this part which is coming in contact with the double I, and upper part we are not going to apply any type of load here, that we are going to consider. Okay, so it will not undergo to stresses. So only empirical formula we can use for that, and this diameter of the head of that pin is taken as a 1.5 times of the diameter of the pin. Okay, is it clear? Okay, then diameter of single eye or outside diameter of the single eye is taken as a twice of the pin, that is DO is taken as a twice of the pin, but it will be checked afterwards for the tensile failure. Okay, so by considering here diameter of outer diameter of the single eye as a twice of pin diameter, we'll go further and we'll check how the tensile load is coming on single eye as well as on fork, and we'll consider the tensile failure, and we'll check whether that single eye or thickness which we have considered as a T1 also diameter which we have considered as a DO, outer diameter, whether these particular dimensions are suitable and whether that single eye is capable to sustain that tensile load or not, that we will check. Now, here we are going to consider the failure of single eye in tension. As we have seen in animation, here the tensile load is used from both sides. Pin is responsible for that. And the area which is undergoing for the tensile failure or resisting that tensile failure is this area, that is shaded area. And we have to calculate this area so that we can write tensile stress is equal to applied pull P divided by this cross-sectional area. Now, how we can calculate this cross-sectional area? Just this end multiplied by this end. So, while we are going to consider the upper side, that will be inner diameter minus outer diameter divided by 2. Okay, that we have to consider. And thickness of that single eye is T1. So, this area will come as a 2 multiplied by 2y, because both sides we have to consider this area, multiplied by T1, sorry, it is looking like A. So T1 into bracket, outer diameter is DO minus inner diameter will be equal to the diameter of pin divided by 2, right? Or you can cancel this 2 and this 2. Simply you can write this sigma T is equal to P divided by T into, sorry, P into DO minus T. And this formally you can convert for the allowable pull, that is P. Is it clear? Okay. Now, if suppose that we have considered for the tensile, but here if suppose, okay, this diagram has to be drawn like this, shearing has to be take place exactly at this place. This much part has to be shear out. Shearing stress we are going to consider. Previously we have considered a tensile stress. Due to tensile load, failure will occur here, but due to shear, this part will get shear out, will come out with the pin. Okay, so this area which is undergoing for the shear, that we can calculate as the diameter of pin. Okay, diameter of pin, that we are going to consider this as a diameter of pin. Okay, and this much area will come out, right? So the resisting area will be thickness multiplied by again this width. And this width we have calculated as DO minus D1 divided by 2. But shearing is taking place at both sides. That's why multiplied by 2 will be there. So this shear stress will given by P divided by area, what? T1 multiplied by DO minus D. Is it clear? Is it clear or not? Yes? Is it clear? So for shear, we are going to use this formula. Okay. So this 2 will be common, and this 2 and this 2 will get cancelled. That's why this dO minus d for the shear stress, sigma s is nothing but the tau, that is allowable shear stress. Okay. And hence we can calculate either this T1. If you are knowing the T1, you can calculate D, that is diameter of pin. If you are knowing the diameter of pin, you can calculate this DO. If you have selected this DO from the empirical formula, and if you have calculated this D with the shear stresses in the pin, if you have taken this T1 from the empirical formula, then you can check whether this allowable shear stress is coming as a less than the or the stress which are generated is less than the allowable shear stress, or you can check this P is greater than the allowable P or the pulling load which you are going to apply. If that equations get satisfied, you can say that's DO, that is the outer diameter of single eye, which you have considered is acceptable. You can consider this small d as a diameter of the pin is safe. You can consider this T1 which you have selected from the empirical formula is safe. Okay, if these two equations get satisfied. Any doubt? Yes. If not, we are going to stop here. No. Okay. Then you can write your roll numbers. Okay, and you can leave this meeting. Thank you for listening. After writing your roll number, you can leave this meeting. So that I can understand those who are not writing their numbers. Hello,
Hello, sir. Sir, the lecture at 2 p.m. I am means sir left in between due to network. Sir.
Okay.
So I request you to sir please put my that lecture attendance.
Okay, we'll consider your attendance if the question arises for the attendance.
Okay, sir.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Hi, yes.
Sir, roll number वर जाय ना.
Roll
रोल
number
नंबर
काय?
38.
हा, त्याचं काय?
सर ते चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये टाकतो पण जाय ना.
आता हे बघा. 38. Can you see this message?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Sambhaji Patil, whether you have put your roll number? Sambhaji Patil. Rohit Kadam.